We all make mistakes, and sometimes we make mistakes that make us go, I really wish I didn't do that. And then there's those mistakes that we kick ourselves for years and years and years later down the road. And those are the mistakes I'm going to be talking about in this video today, because I'm going to be sharing with you the 3 biggest mistakes I made as a beginner real estate investor. And mistake number 3, I think you might find it a little bit controversial. So make sure you stick around for that. So let's get right into it and talk about mistake number 1 that I made. And this was a way of thinking. I used to think that you had to do everything alone, on your own. And this is very common. We talk with a lot of beginner real estate investors with what we do, and this is so common. And it's just a way of thinking where you're not exposed to what the more successful investors are doing. And let me explain what I mean. When I first started, now I was working with a partner at the time, but the thought process was the exact same thing. So I thought that we had to qualify for loans on our own. I thought that's what you did. You saved up money, and when you had enough money, you purchased a house or you did a duplex conversion, and then you saved again, and then you qualified for the next loan. So we'll put loan qualification down here. Now, if you know anything about residential real estate investing, it's that once you get a couple properties, the lenders don't really want to lend you any more money with the way residential debt servicing, the debt service coverage ratios and all of that works in residential real estate investing. It's not built to scale. And the problem is when you try and do everything on your own, very quickly you tap out with conventional financing because it's residential real estate. It's not scalable, right? So I thought you had to do everything on your own. So here I am, like trying to build this single family home portfolio, and it felt like I was like racing, like swimming against the current, banging my head against the brick wall, whichever metaphor or analogy you want to use. It was really, really challenging, but it was the way I was thinking about it. I was approaching it all wrong. And then I thought you had to do the management on your own too. So with all the single family properties, guess who the tenant was calling when something went wrong? This guy right here. And it wasn't scalable. I was basically building myself a beck and call kind of job, a customer service job, and not building a business or a portfolio set up for growth and scale. So I remember one night, late at night, like maybe 10:30 at night, get a call from one of the tenants. Hey, there's smoke in the basement unit. Oh, great. Okay, race over there, trying to figure out what it is. It turns out they had purchased a space heater, and the space heater was broken, or it wasn't broken, but it was brand new, so it was kind of smoking off with the factory finish that was on it for the first use. That's what was causing the smoke and the smell. And here I am, it's late at night, I just left my house, had to drive over there, waste the time, drive back, for something that could have been avoided. But I thought you had to roll up your sleeves. This is what was expected. You had to be the one managing the tenants, have that personal touch. Well, it's not scalable. Once you get a handful of properties, you can't do everything on your own. But I thought, again, my limited thinking, my limited knowledge of what successful investors were doing at the time, I thought this is what you did. You had to grind it out and do everything on your own. Something broke with the plumbing, you got to drive over and fix it. Well, silly me. I wish I didn't make that mistake. And then there's also sourcing the deals. Now, way back in the day, I was selling real estate, right? I was working as a real estate broker, doing pretty good at it. So I had the deal flow, but I didn't understand about sourcing deals in different markets. I thought I had to go visit every deal. I didn't know that you could build a deal sourcing team and really take it up a couple notches and really build a business with it. I thought you did one deal at a time, and you had to do everything on your own, so qualify for the loans. It was just, and that thinking kept me so constrained for such a long period of time because I didn't know there were other ways of doing this. This is what I thought that people did, and I really wish I didn't make this mistake. Now, mistake number 2, this has caused me to miss out on millions and millions and millions of dollars of missed opportunity. This one was absolutely crushing once I figured out that I had made this mistake. And the mistake is I failed to learn from others. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. So when I first got started in real estate investing, I remember I bought a couple books. I read those books, and then I started thinking about it and doing things based on my very, very, very limited knowledge. So I want you to picture this. Let's say there's somebody down here, and there's a big hill, right? So all you can see is what's on this side of the hill. And over on this side, you have a huge valley. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. All you need to do is climb to the top of the hill, and then you can see the bigger picture. Well, at that point in what I knew about real estate investing, I was right here with let's put a frowny face right there. This is where I was, and reading the books right here, it only got me here. I still couldn't see over the hill. Now, this is where most people operate in real estate investing. That for whatever reason, they get held back by very limited beliefs and their understanding of what real estate investing is really all about. It's just about exposing yourself to what's really out there and what the most successful people are doing. And then it's like a whole new world opens up. So I remember the very first time that world opened up to me. I maxed out my credit card to get myself in a room with other successful investors. I had started a podcast, and one of the guests on the podcast had invited me out to this thing. It sounded pretty good. It was in Philadelphia. Maxed out my credit cards. I didn't have any money at the time. I remember we went out for dinner and all that kind of stuff, and I was paying for cash, and all these very successful people, dropping down, couple $100 each to make up for the dinner. And I'm like, oh, well, I'll just chime in with a couple 20s here. It was really, really tight. But what that did, it completely changed how I saw real estate. Because in that room, there were people managing real estate funds. There were people, syndicating deals, raising millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars, and who had built these really incredible real estate portfolios. That was a world I didn't even know existed until I put myself in that room. And once that happened, it was like now I saw the full valley, like the other side of the hill. And then I really had a true understanding of what real estate was really all about. But for most people, if you're not looking to learn from the really successful people, if not looking for experts or coaches, mentors, whatever it is, I don't care who you look at, just look at somebody successful. Because for years and years and years, I kept the blinders on because I stayed within my wheelhouse, but I just didn't know what I didn't know. And it kept me with a very limited vision of what real estate investing was all about. And I made decisions based on that, even though there was a whole different world out there. But once I put myself in that room, it changed everything. And I want you to do the same thing. So I want you to seek out very successful real estate investors. Now, with the podcast I ran for years, we interviewed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of real estate investors, and I found three similarities among all the most successful real estate investors, and it totally changed my outlook, and I actually built an entire course based on that. So once I started learning from other people, total game changer, and I really, really wish I started doing this from the start. Because you just don't know what you don't know, and somebody who's already been there can help guide you and open your eyes to what you really should be seeing. Now we're getting to the mistake I'm really excited to talk about because it goes against the grain. It goes against what most people out there are advising when it comes to real estate investing, and it's going to be a little bit controversial. Now I'm going to explain this, and hopefully by the end of this you're going to see it the way I see it now, having made the mistakes in the past. And the mistake is starting small. Now we get this all the time because we work with real estate investors who are brand new to multifamily investing, so that they're looking to get their first apartment building deal done, or they're looking to transition from residential investing into multifamily apartment building investing. And all the time we hear people say, well, I just want to start small and then I'll work my way up. And this is the way I thought about it, right? The first real estate investments I made were like single family homes, right? Like a condo, duplex conversion, like a single family home, like the small stuff. And I thought it was like a stepping stone where you had to work your way up to the larger deals. Now, a lot of people are under the false belief that a smaller deal is quote unquote safer. Now, let me break this down because this is something I'm very passionate about now that I've seen both sides of the coin and experienced it for myself. So we'll have small and then we'll have larger deals. Now, on the small side, let me break it down this way. A smaller deal is going to have less meat on the bone, less cash flow, right? You have less units, you're less efficient, your cost per unit is going to be a whole lot higher. I don't care if it's a single family home, a triplex, a duplex, whatever it is. You only have a handful of units. What happens when one tenant moves out of a triplex? You lose 33% of your revenue overnight. A duplex, half of your revenue gone overnight when somebody moves out. Tell me a business where that's not going to cripple that business. You walk down to a brick and mortar store and they lose 50% of their revenue overnight. Well, we kind of saw that with some lockdowns. Like, it was absolutely crippling. And remember, we're investing in a business that happens to be tied to real estate. So we have to think, we have to put our business owner hat on when we talk about this stuff. So cash flow is very tight with the small deals. Well, we're just not efficient. We're not built for scale. Now, when we go with the larger apartment buildings, we have economies of scale working in our favor. Expense cost per unit goes way down. Management cost per unit goes way down. Our management fees get way cheaper when we scale because it's more efficient to manage multiple units on the same property. So cash flow is going to be really tight with the small deals. Now, this is the main point I want to highlight here. If you are a beginner and you are going to make mistakes, just like I made these mistakes, these 3 mistakes, you are going to make mistakes with this property, right? Because it's your first time doing it. What property is going to give you more wiggle room? Because cash flow is the lifeblood of a real estate deal. You have very limited cash flow. I did it, right? You have very limited cash flow with a small deal. So your margin for error is nil. You cannot make a mistake. With the larger deal, you have more cash flow. You can absorb some mistakes along the way because there's more meat. The property's producing more NOI, net operating income. So I would argue that a larger deal in this case is safer than the smaller deal. So it's the opposite of what I would say common consensus is when it comes to small deals versus larger deals and starting small. Now we get into management. Now, I mentioned the management costs go down, but let me break it down this way. With the small deal like I did, you think you have to do everything alone. And a lot of beginner investors get into managing the deals on their own because there's no cash flow. Like you go to a major metropolitan center in North America, your cash flow for a small deal is going to be minimal. If not, you may be negatively geared, which means you have to put money in every single month to support the property. You can't afford management at that point because you're banking on appreciation, which is speculation. It's not investing. So most people end up managing the deal on their own. Now, what does this do? This increases the likelihood of a mistake because you're brand new, you haven't done it before, you're a beginner, and now you have tight cash flow and you are managing the deal on your own. You don't have that support network, so you're going to make more mistakes. Now with the larger deal, it has stronger cash flow, you're able to support management at this point. So what does that give you? That gives you an expert who probably manages thousands of units in that marketplace, who knows that market like the back of their hand. They have experience. Now they can guide you and help you make decisions with that property so you don't end up making rookie mistakes with it. So again, I would argue that the larger property is a whole lot safer to get into because you can bring in management to help you along and avoid those rookie mistakes instead of doing what most people do, and like I did, trying to figure out on your own and make a whole bunch of mistakes along the way. And then third point I want to make with this is partnership. Now, this kind of goes back to thinking you have to do everything on your own and learning from others. Doing a house, a condo, whatever it is, a small deal, starting small, you're not able to bring in other partners most of the time. Because there's not enough meat on the bone of the deal. The deal's not large enough to be able to bring other partners in profitably. Now, with a larger deal, the more units that you do, the deal becomes more efficient. You have more ways of increasing the value of the deal. The deal's valued differently. We can get into that in another video. But with partnership, you're able to bring in people who have more experience, who specialize in a certain part of the deal. Maybe there's a construction component, you're doing renovations. Well, partner with somebody, learn from others who's done a whole bunch of renovation projects just like this one, partner on the deal, and the deal's going to run so much better. You're going to avoid all these mistakes. You have an expert helping you along the way, and because the deal's bigger, you have professional management, you have bigger cash flow, and everybody wins. So I would much rather have half of a really great bigger deal than 100% of a really small deal. But again, it goes back to the way I was thinking. I thought you had to own everything on your own and stay small and work your way up. And that was a huge huge mistake. So, controversial statement, but it is so true. Starting small is not the way to go. And that was the single biggest mistake I made when I started investing in real estate, thinking how to start small. If I could go back in time, in a time machine, I would go 100% with the larger deal from day one. I so wish I did this from the start. Hey, thanks for watching. I've got 2 other great clips for you to watch right over here, and let me know what you think. Leave a comment, hit the like button. It really helps out the channel. And until next time, happy investing.